welcome to Art Tale, and
Yeah.
today we have Alessandra with us. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Sally. I'm a BFA3 character animation student, and with me are
I'm Matthew. I'm also a character animation student.
I'm Sophia. I'm also a BFA character animation student. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Thank you.
and we're super excited to have Alessandra with us today because we love storyboarding and we love your storyboard and all the films you've worked on. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Alessandra, would you be able to maybe share about your journey and then introduce yourself as well first?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I'm a visual person, so I like telling about my story with images. My name is Alessandra Sorrentino, and I'm from Italy. And I've been working in movies for the past 20 years, no more. Most of all, yes, I am a story artist, but I've also been really active in my career as a 2D animator. That's how I started. And these days, I'm also an art director. And these are just some of the things that I worked on. There's many more. My experience is mostly in features, but I got to play also with like commercials, short films, television, illustration, and currently I'm in video games. To me, it doesn't really matter the medium that I use. Storytelling has just always been my fuel, and I've been lucky to, try so many different styles and being in so many different studios in my career to grow as an artist. And these are just some of the ones I was lucky to work at. All these studios are very different because story is such a collaborative part of the work. And so everything is different even within the same studio. So, it comes with its own energy, its own style, a mix of talents. And there's always been, something that inspired me in each team that I was at. And it's the best learning source for me. One of my favorite things about these places is the education programs, just the opportunities to learn and to have access to the archives and go to workshops and lectures. So for me, something that brings me a lot of joy is mentoring. I mentor at Pixar, at Netflix. I taught at here in San Francisco at the Walt Disney Family Museum. I teach on schoolism. I have several courses on storyboarding. And so, yeah, I hope to bring some of that to you today. And we'll talk a little bit about my process as well. So I hope that it's exciting for you as much as it is for me. So the journey that brought me here, because my workflow, it's not just about like the technical steps to craft a scene. It's how I think about story. And so I have to talk about where I was born and raised. Turin is such a lovely town in the north of Italy, surrounded by the Alps, and it's not just about the beautiful buildings and the the food and what Italy is known for. Turin is really old, and it's like 28 before Christ old. So I was really surrounded by all this ancient history and beauty, like constantly feeding my eyes, and really gave me a lot to draw from. And Turin was also the capital of cinema in Italy. This one that you see is the National Museum of Cinema. I spent a bunch of time there just when I was a kid, and also studying animation as an adult. Kind of like, you can sit there and watch movies on the ceiling, and every section of the museum is a different part of cinema. And of course, this was my favorite. There was a whole zoetrope section where, of course, the seed of animation was planted a long time ago. And of course, I love Disney, and I loved Alice in Wonderland. This is the earliest drawing that I own. Sorry, that I own. I was about 5, and it was the scene where they're painting the roses red. I wrote the lyrics in Italian. I watched a lot of movies every day, Disney movies, and these were my VHS tapes that I just put on rotation every single day. And I was an only child until I was 10, so I spent a lot of time on my own, drawing on the floor, like many of you probably, and watching cartoons. And this was my favorite TV channel on TV. It was called Junior TV. In the 80s, television in Italy was mostly anime because it was cheap to import. And so 70s, 80s anime are a huge staple of Italian culture of my time, of course. So everyone knows like opening songs and like quote character lines. And it was crazy because they were showing non-stop cartoons from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I was just like watching everything from like, mecha, space operas, like sports shows, school dramas, and there were monsters and adventures. And the really great thing for me about these shows from the 70s was that no matter the genre, they all had a lot of heart. The audience was really given space to feel. There were like a lot of pauses, moments of wonder, moments of stillness. There was some bittersweetness to it, but there was also a lot of hope. Like no matter the themes, like how crude sometimes, there was a lot of war, there was a lot of dark stuff, but there was also a lot of childlike magic to it. So it was a world where I loved spending time. And there was this studio called Nippon Animation. They took European novels and they developed these amazing shows, part of a project that was called World Masterpiece Theater. And these two were involved in that studio, really young Miyazaki and a really young Takahata. And it's funny because I didn't know anything about them because I was just a child, but I could tell how powerful honesty was in storytelling. Like the series that they created had such a big impact on me as a child as it is today. And this was my all-time favorite, Future Boy Conan. I don't know if you are familiar with it. If you're not, get it. I recently bought the Blu-ray version. It's on Amazon. You can find it really easily. 26 episodes, really short. This is my favorite Miyazaki thing of all time, even more than the feature films. A lot of heart, beautiful cinematics. I can't speak more highly about this. And then, of course, Son of Green Gables. This was Isao Takahata. Sherlock Holmes was another Miyazaki. So I see that it's getting its moments now. People are starting to talk about it more. 3,000 Leagues in Search of Mother. I don't know. All these shows really felt real, relatable, and when a show would end, I really felt lonely. Like if I friends, like because I really cared about this character. So this is something that always came for me. Like character was everything in the story. Everything came full circle when I realized this, because character and performance are my favorite things in storytelling. And so it's an inspiration that really stayed with me through my career. And a lot of my personal taste comes from this. This was my turning point, 1989. Little Mermaid comes out. And I'm an obsessed little girl. And during Christmas dinner with my parents, there's a documentary on TV in the background. They showed behind the scenes of how the movie was made. And so I see a really young Glenkin who is like flipping drawings, animation paper, and artists painting on cells. And so I understand that this is an actual job that someone does. So I decide on that night when I was 8 that I wanted to be an animator, that I wanted to do it too. And I never looked back. So with my animation school, I go to Annecy to the festival, and I see this short film called From Darkness. For some reason, this short film had really something about it. I felt it was different, so I went to see it twice. I got the festival catalog and I look it up, and I find that it's made by this woman director, Nora Toomey, in this independent studio in Ireland called Cartoons.
Oh.
And so I sent my portfolio, I got accepted, and this was summer of 2004. I flew to Ireland for a 2 weeks internship, and I ended up staying. That turned into a job offer, and so I eventually moved to Kilkenny. Kilkenny is a really cute town, lovely, lovely people. I always love going back. I was there recently, and it's like time never never passed. It's been a long, long time, and I stayed in Ireland for almost 3 years. This is the entrance of Cartoon Saloon, and back then we were working on Secret of Kells. This was pencils on paper. It was really a masterclass in patience. Ashling here, I can see it was like a page full of poses, and yeah, I worked on the whole Irish trilogy, Secret of Kells, Song of the Sea, and Wolfwalkers. On Secret of Kells, I was a 2D animator. My biggest task on the movie was to bring to life Ashling, which was a big, long 7-minute sequence when she gets introduced as a main character. So established their role in the story. And it was really interesting because she's such a complex character. She's like curious, she's crazy, but she's also very vulnerable and unpredictable. So it was really, really interesting. On Song of the Sea, I got to work on both animation and story. I animated the whole flashback introduction. And these are some of my storyboard panels. I got a lot of sequences with Saoirse, the main character, who cannot speak. Such a beautiful challenge because like everything had to be really conveyed through gestures and movements. And so here's that like anime culture of nuances really came full circle for me because it's a lot of show, don't tell. And this piece is from Wolfwalkers. I animated a sequence at the beginning of the movie that established the dynamic between the father and the daughter as a reference for scenes that followed. So yeah, I would say like 3D years animation and story really have kind of fed each other in my work, really shaped how I approach character performances. And for quite a long time, I was the only woman in my story teams, which was very different than how it is today. I'm so happy that there's so many amazing, talented story artists, women who bring so much to the table in every team, different sensitivity, different stories. So yeah, it's really nice to see how things will change in time. And my journey involved always a lot of moving. So after Ireland, I spent some time back in Italy again, and then I moved to London for a few years. In London, I worked on Ron's Gone Wrong and Locksmith Animation, and loved playing with this little guy. And aside from storyboarding, actually, I got to design and animate the expressions on Ron's face. He was a malfunctioning robot. Having grown with 80s video games, which I loved, I pitched them to be animated in 8 bits. And yeah, I'm so glad that it stayed in the movie. I worked with Arman while I was in the UK on the Shaun the Sheep movie. And I did a lot of freelance stuff because London is so full of different studios with different styles. And then I moved to New York. This was the view from my little place in this village. And I went to Blue Sky to work on Nimona. Nimona was one of my favorite characters to board because she's so fun. And then Blue Sky shut down and I ended up at Pixar. And I worked on this little guys here. And after Pixar, I got to work at Netflix. I was on 3 different movies. One of them was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Back then, the director was still Taika Waititi, which was a lot of fun to work with. And then finally, I moved to San Francisco in Russian Hill, where I am right now. And this unexpected thing happened. I became the art director on the new 2D hand-drawn video game at Studio MDHR, which is the people behind Cuphead. And if you know this video game, it's a video game that was animated completely traditionally on paper. So I'm really excited to work on the new project talk about, but I am treating it exactly like if it was a movie. So my approach is always really focused on story, character, and specificity. And yeah, my life as an artist is not just about animation work. I try to branch out a lot. I always keep a window from, for anything that can kind of feed my creativity, especially when I'm stuck. When you kind of like, blank page, I don't know what to do. And that is the moment where I'm like, okay, I need to get out and do something else to clear my head. So something that I do to productively procrastinate is go out and take photos. I've done it professionally for Vintage Style magazine back when I was living in Italy, but I just love doing it for myself and observe the world and find crazy things that happen just in your neighborhood. And you come back with so much inspiration. This is a really non-fancy picture that I took with my phone. Like I didn't have much time because I had just set to capture it. But there's so much happening. Like, what is going on here? There's a duck, a dog with like a sequin vest, and a purple Ferrari, and a hat with a duck on it. Like there's a whole story in this. So like going out and like, just observing and store for later is something that I really love doing. I took a few book projects on the side. This was really early in my career. It was called My Monster Burufu. It's about a young girl who moves into a new home and finds this big fluffy monster living in the attic. And my most precious procrastination project was in fashion. This was 2012. I designed Rosa Spina Vintage, which was a vintage-inspired collection made with vintage fabrics from my grandmother's stash. My grandma used to be a seamstress. My grandfather worked on commercial ships, and so he was bringing her fabrics from everywhere in the world, and these were fabrics from like the 50s and the 60s. And so I was inspired, and I told my mom, why don't we make a collection? And so I designed the collections, and my mom made each garment by hand, and it was an incredible side project that I loved, and ended up getting much bigger than I thought. We got featured in magazines. We even had a little corner at Milan Fashion Week. So I had to put it back in the drawer because animation is my life and you have to make it. But to me, it wasn't just fashion. It was like vintage was the way that I connected family and history and design all together. So it was still a way to tell a story. And of course, I love drawing. I love drawing animals and pretty city corners. This is Turin, my hometown, Washington Square Park in New York, and the gorillas from the San Francisco Zoo. If I can go out, put on a documentary and draw some animals. My favorite couch thing is doing movie studies. I think for story artists especially, it's so important to just watch movies with intention and pause and sketch it. And I love asking myself, why this angle? Why now? Why they did it this way? What is happening? And so, I don't know, I feel like I learned more from 1 hour of thoughtful observation than like 10 hours reading camera work manual. I really love movie studies. So
wow.
Again now.
That is so incredible. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, when we were looking at all of the work you did, we were just so inspired because you worked on so many different projects in so many different countries. And then beyond animation, as you said, you have your own interests and also your own projects, which is super, super inspiring.
Time is what it is.
You worked on so many projects in animation. Can you pinpoint a favorite one or maybe a project that you feel like has grown your skills as an artist, as a story artist the most?
I think I always go back to Song of the Sea. Song of the Sea is really my heart project. Maybe it's also because I got to do both storyboard and animation, so I spent a lot of time on it. It was interesting because I was remote on that project. I wasn't even at the studio. But I worked on Secret of Kells before, so they trusted me. Like we knew each other so well, so it was easy. And I had a lot of remote work experience before the pandemic happened. So when the pandemic happened, I was like, yeah, it's okay. Like I've done it before, like So yeah, Song of the Sea, because I think I had to really kind of get into my character's head more than other projects, because Saoirse especially, and I think like one of the things we're going to talk today when I'm going to share a bit about my process is I'll show you one scene from Song of the Sea. Because Saoirse, the main character, she cannot speak, and so like you really have to understand how to let her communicate to the audience through nuances and little gestures and like the way she looks at the other character, and a lot to figure out, I think. And it was the first time that I was really connecting the dots, because a lot of my experience comes from, as a story artist, comes from animation, and like the way that I handle performances is a lot to do with that period of my life. So yeah, I think I was like, oh, animation, oh, the stuff that I watched when I was a child, and the way the stories are coming together. So it was a lot of kind of processing for me, I think. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed drawing the characters. They're so cute.
That's so beautiful. I was gonna say that's really amazing to hear, because I feel like out of all your storyboards that I literally pour over, I have your website open at all times on my like Google Chrome, so I can just look at it for inspiration. But your Song of the Sea boards are like some of my favorite storyboards I've ever seen. So it's really interesting to me that it's also the project that you've personally felt the most connected with. And I was actually going to ask a question that was kind of related to because we were visited by Giovanna Ferrari, actually.
Yeah, we went to school together.
And she visited us and was also talking about Song of the Sea, and how she was like, also when she was animating Saoirse, when she was animating her, she was keeping in mind like she had her daughter and was like drawing a lot of specificities from that, and because of that was able to apply like this level of charm that was very unique. And so I wonder if you look back on your work on Song of the Sea, and can you see any characters that from your own childhood, or like the specific things that you might have put into her intentionally or not? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually glad that you mentioned Giovanna, because we went to school together. We were really good friends, and I know that she animated some of my shots from my storyboard, so there's a connection. Yeah, I definitely thought a lot about my relationship with my sister when I was working on Song of the Sea, and actually the sequence I'm going to show has a bit of that, because there's always that, it's like a rivalry, but you love each other, but you keep kind of like arguing on little things, and again, there's no talking, because Saoirse can't talk. So I was like, what are things that like you do as a child? How do you kind of pick each other? And so yeah, I'll show you how I approach that scene. There's a lot of thinking, and there's a lot of lists that I write to kind of remember. what I can kind of tackle when I draw. And that definitely comes from personal experience. Absolutely.
I have a little sister too, so I think that's also why the movie resonates so much with me. It's just like these levels of like heartfelt, or your heart is attached to all these different levels.
I cry every time I watch. I don't know every line by heart, but I can't. I just cry every single time.
I know you're going to dive into your process later, but you were talking about going through your journey and all of the different projects you worked on and all the different styles and studios that you go through. And you might mention this later, but like curiously, are there any like different approaches you take to different mediums between like 2D to stop motion to 3D animation? Are there any differences when it comes to storyboarding on those projects, or do you have a very like similar way of tackling each of these projects?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a similarity because the way that I approach a scene is always comes from what am I feeling right now? What am I trying to communicate? What personal experiences I can recall, then I can tackle into. So that is my base. That is my I don't want to call it formula, but it's my safe rock. And then of course it changes, as you said. Like if you're working on a 3D movie, 3D has the camera wants to move, wants to kind of explore around, and it kind of gives you more freedom in terms of what do I show, where do I shoot from, and that's great. The thing that I'm always thinking though when it's a 3D movie is like it's not as important to have the cool shot, because to me when I'm watching a movie and I see the cool shot, I see the craft behind it, and I'm disconnected from the story. I'm thinking, oh my god, like these artists, they thought about this is so cool, and instead, like your goal as a story artist is to let the audience connect with what you're doing and really like immerse them in the story. And so the moment that you kind of lose their attention, it's kind of game over for me. So yeah, so I always try to give honesty to where I place the camera. Like, is there an intention? Is it saying something that I need? Do I really need to change the position at this time? So I think about that. Stop motion is interesting because it's like when I worked on with Arman on Shaun the Sheep movie, there's in those characters there's a lot of again nuance. There's a lot of eyes going on. There's a lot of eye darts. There's little eyebrow moving. So of course it's got a strong composition. The setup is really good, but then it's all about here. So that was fun for me. It was more performance. I like that. So yeah.
I guess on a similar train of like your way of doing things. I've always noticed that in your storyboards you have this really, really appealing shorthand, like regardless of whatever project it is. Like I know I said Song of the Sea is my favorite, but I see the same charm in like all the projects that you've done. So I know that there's like the draftsmanship shorthand, but I was also wondering if do you think you've developed like a shorthand not just for draftsmanship, but for also character acting and appeal? And I just wonder how you're able to carry that to each project.
I think my shorthand is animation. I think that's my driving force, and that this is the other cat who wants to. So okay, this is Lucho.
Oh my god, I can't see your eyes.
It's just the shape.
What happened? Yeah, I think my shorthand is animation, and I like breaking down my action into thumbnails, just the same way that I would break it down for animation. So these are my keys. This is how performance is, is built. What is the accent? What is the moment that I need to absolutely have in my scene? Hair flying everywhere. So I think it's just the honesty. I think it's just like what am I trying to say, and what is the character thinking in that moment? What are they feeling? And I just really try to be in their shoes, and I ask myself, is this character believable? Does this character exist outside the movie? Can I imagine this character having breakfast? Why do they choose these clothes? Like, what do they mean for them? So there's a lot of thinking that I do before I board my scene, and kind of like trying to understand who they are. So I know what to do. Like, if you know a character, like, you know how they would behave in a certain situation. So yeah. I think that's
Lovely.
That is so cool. I think we're ready to see this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's look at the process.
Again, the approach I bring to my storyboard work is the same approach I have for everything else, like animation, or the way I'm working on this video game now. And my approach is my own. It's not right. You have to find your own that works for you, that serves the way that you work. So yeah, I can talk about my workflow with some examples from a few of my sequences, and going from the launch with the director to the research I do, the exploration, my bullet points, brainstorming beats of the story, the thumbnail pass, and all the way to the final boards. My process has been constantly evolving. Depends on many factors. Depends on the project itself, not just different softwares, but also directors are different, and they might have unique expectations for how scenes are drawn. Some directors may prioritize composition. Some other directors want many panels or really cleaned up boards. It also depends on my mood. Sometimes I like to, get the mood of the scene, and I start with just the key story beats. And other times I just want to go kind of like animation flow like, and I start boarding straight ahead very roughly. It also depends on the tools that I have available at the moment. Sometimes I was traveling, and so I drew thumbnails on paper, and I took shitty photos of them and I pitched those. And yeah, sometimes, I'm on my Cintiq, and sometimes I use Storyboard Pro, sometimes I use TV Paint. I love TV Paint. So my approach is really an extension of me. It might not work for everyone. On movies like Song of the Sea, I started with a pretty rough style for thumbnails. Then I went quite clean, because that was kind of like, it was the vibe at that time. On movies like Nimona, I kept a rougher line for final panels, just to get more acting out of it. And sometimes they wouldn't even do much of the background. So just an indication of the perspective and just major blocking. Things that matter to me: communicating the story clearly. So make sure that the key idea or the moment is completely clear to the audience. Land the performance with clear poses. Guiding the viewer's eye across the frame where I want it to go, and between cuts as well, to keep the flow. And strong composition, like building shots with thoughtful framing, just like I was mentioning before, not to look cool, but to support the story, have meaning for each camera placement. And yeah, when I join a new project, the first thing that I do is familiarize myself with the characters. And that's a very useful way to procrastinate. Before diving into the sequences, I usually spend some time experimenting with different poses and expressions.
Wow.
The range of what the characters can and cannot do. Like, it's nice to spend a couple of days to play around with the characters. I always love that time. And I love performance, as I said. So sometimes when I thumbnail, I draw just the poses for the acting without drawing any background. And this is the 2D animator coming out. I just like to get into the character's head and be like, what would they feel? What would they think in this situation? I try to see the world through their eyes. And when there's a new place to build, a new act that's not fully written, or a scene that needs some gags or a new problem to solve, especially in big studios, you get assigned what it's called an exploration. So in Inside Out 2, one of the biggest developments in Riley's mind was the sense of self, the place where her core beliefs are formed, the way that Riley sees the world, how she makes decisions, and how she interacts with others. And those beliefs could change as she grew and experienced new things. So it was a really exciting concept to play around with, but we knew nothing about it. So when the very first pages were written, I got assigned to explore what this sense of self would be like. And at the time, we called it the belief system. It was the very first time that we were seeing this in the movie, so it was like perfect time to throw ideas out there, even if they were silly. And because you never know, sometimes you just say something stupid and it sparks a conversation in the team, and you find a solution. So all we knew was that the belief system was down below headquarters in the unconscious, but beyond that, we didn't really know exactly what it looked like. And so I took some inspiration from nature. I was looking at this really cool route, the Amazonian forest, and I started imagining kind of like branches reaching up toward that quarters. And I wanted these like glowing branches to give the feeling of a living and breathing system, something that's alive, that's always changing, like Riley growing up, kind of figuring things out. And I remember in one of the brainstorming sessions, Ralph Eggleston, legend, who passed away way too soon, pitched this idea that the beliefs were more delicate than memories, so a little less solid. And so I started drawing them as this kind of gooey, shiny, kind of like boba person. And I went a little wild here. I imagine the belief system, these beliefs had alive and interactive and like showing emotions of their own, that they would like glow and change color, maybe even make little noises. And I thought, what if beliefs got paired with the corresponding emotion? Like what would happen? Like sadness, holding one and just both bursting into tears. And I didn't want them to show the memory that created the belief, because the memory marbles themselves already work that way. And so instead I thought, what if you could hear them? And so I tossed around some ideas for the belief to actually say things. And I'm really happy that one of them, who says, I'm a good friend, actually stayed in the movie. And I imagined like different beliefs sitting all on a branch, kind of like resounding together, like a harp, like they were part of a collective, like an orchestra. And yeah, we did a lot of research into the shapes and forms of the belief system. And after exploring the belief system, I got assigned the actual pages, which was super exciting. Approached the sequence kind of starting from the key beats to get in the mood, and it starts with the emotions kind of descending into Riley's unconscious. And once Joy gets to the edge of the cliff, the belief system is revealed, and you get this really epic moment that I really had fun drawing. And she's like really stunned. She's blown away by seeing this thing for the first time. And she gets in the water and starts making her way through. It's all very dreamlike. And they walk towards the center of this tree. It's like a glowing network of beliefs all connected, like branches. And every branch had a belief attached to it. And like by touching it or shaking the branch, all the beliefs will resound together. But then the sequence was rewritten many times. The belief system was shelved for quite a long time, doing some rewrites, which is super normal in big studios like Pixar. And the story changed many times, but then in the end, the belief system came back, called self. And so even though it came back a little bit different, I was really happy to see echoes, literally, of that exploration, final version of the movie. That was really, really emotional to see. Other times we have a very solid script. Usually smaller studios have much less rewrites. And I usually try to get the script well before the launch, so I have time to think and kind of show up with questions. Directors love when you have questions. On launch day, there's usually a table read, and I write visual notes on the script itself, kind of like to not lose momentum of the things that come into my head. So this is from Song of the Sea. And as I read, I start recognizing key story beats that I want to hit, because they're important to the story. I think about where my camera will go mentally, and where I am, what I can play with. And so the sequence is the very beginning of the movie. It's the first time that we see the characters. This is right about after the flashback animated scene that I did, and just after the title, this is the first sequence that you see. So Ben, the little boy, is on the beach, is reading his notebook to his dog Ku, and it's like, playful and warm. And then Saoirse, his little sister, appears behind him, and she's silenced because she can't speak. And so he gets annoyed. He pushes her away. She's hurt, and the dog Ku is trying to comfort her. So there's this little emotional moment, and then Saoirse sees something in the sea. She goes in. Ben panics because he cannot swim, and this will be an important setup because it will happen later in the movie. So the dog goes in, pulls Ben into, and so we clearly see the siblings dynamic. There's like affection, but there's a lot of tension. And yeah, she can't speak. There's only a couple of gestures, and you're like, this family needs therapy. So, the script minimum 3 times, and the first time is to absorb the tone. The second time is to kind of like note the key beats and any emotional shifts. And so by the time the third time I read it, I'm kind of focusing on visual opportunities, and that's where I can think about the cool things just after I set up my base. And then after reading, I step away for at least an hour, just away from it. Ignore the script. This ignore the script time is essential for me to just let my brain process everything, kind of like subconsciously. And I try to think of the scene in terms of simple design. Like, what if a kid drew it? Like, what would the key beats be? And so those are my clear shapes to try to convey the idea. And so wake up from that break. I wish I could be that character, because I am unable to nap. But if I amazing. I've never been able to. I'm a night owl. So but yeah, I make a cup of tea. Usually that's my break time, and then I start sketching very loosely. And I think of what are the key moments. This is my animator brain coming in. So I block my keys first, and then I in between, literally. Like, I block the key shots in stories, and then I connect them.
Oh.
If I went straight ahead, like one at a time, you might find something cool at one point, and then maybe I took too much time to get from point A to point B, and I have to lose a lot of that work anyway. So I prefer to find my highlights first, so I don't have to worry about continuity, and I just have fun in that phase. And then when I have like A, B, or B and C, I can go straight ahead in that space, because I know that I have boundaries and I can really have fun. Yeah, I feel like storyboarding is not just drawing panels right out of the script, of course. You have to kind of break the story down and figure out how to elevate plus each moment with your drawings. And then I do brainstorming with myself. I spend a good day or two with photos, references. I like to keep a folder of photos taken by me and divided by category. Reference is not cheating. A lot of my students are always asking, like, should I not use reference? Is it that? It's not. It's not bad. It's not cheating. It just helps you to create a world that feels rich and believable. Sometimes I put on a movie in the background just for inspiration. I feel the soundtrack. I sense the tone. And sometimes I even show the reference to my director, like, this is what I thought. Do you like it? What do you think? Sometimes I write lists. I mentioned lists before. I like to write down the interactions that occur in the sequence. This was a page with things that Ben and Saoirse could do. So sibling things, and so that's where I thought about me and my sister growing up, and I wrote down some of things that little siblings would do, like teasing verbally or tapping each other's heads and roll their eyes and stuff like that. And then I write down also a list of assets. So all the possible objects and props and background elements or characters in the scenes that I can interact with. Any opportunities for like gags or stuff like that. And then I just forget the structure and I let the stream of consciousness happen. So I let my pencil do the thinking and vomit ideas, and maybe 90% of those will be thrown away, but I know that something will stay. And so my favorite part of the process is very quickly, because 90% of the ideas won't make it into the final film, and that's okay. So yeah, this is a recap. Use reference, visual interaction, visualize the assets, forget the structure, and kind of like let the stream of consciousness come in, and fail quickly, get those bad drawings and the bad ideas out of my pencil fast. Because the faster they get out of my way, the more time I have for the right things. And the best territory to fail quickly is actually thumbnails. So I like using a fat brush to block the idea, and I super rough, simple shapes, simple staging. This creative phase often holds the most mental workload for me, and so it's the time where I try to be a bit more careful with like my sleep, my food, energy. I try to be fresh for that stage, because for me that's the most important. I don't like the blank page. I feel like there's a good chance that whatever I do first will not be right, and I have a lot of imposter syndrome, and you know what, it's probably true. Like, you probably won't be ending up in the movie, that first sketch that I do, but that's the point. You just gotta give yourself permission to embrace that chaos. So my first pass doesn't have to be right, it just has to exist on the page. And I draw it fast, not pretty. Often it's stuff that only I understand, so I'm not attached to anything, and I can swap it and move it and throw it all away. There's no pain in that. Usually a director is very okay to see even this phase before the first pass. So I can have a quick drive-by just to get advice. And once I have a good perspective, I draw my first pass that looks more readable than my sketches on napkins. And I get a better sense of the rhythm of the shots. And I try to give the director everything that I would want myself in the film, if it was my film, that I would be happy with. So I add those little moments here and there that I feel will be fun for the scene. And I get the whole thing not too posed out, because I want to present early to not lose time. There's no use in drawing too much if the director has a different idea. So I pitch my thumbnails at the check-in. Usually there is a director, the head of story, the production assistant to keep track of everything, and I get the notes. So I'm back at my desk fixing, and again, it's easier to change things when it's rough, and I'm ready to go to cleanup. And cleanup doesn't mean clean for me. It means clear. So getting things readable, both drawing-wise and performance-wise, and add all the panels that I need. And this is what my final board looks like. So it's clear. I added some tones, but just rough for readability. Usually my grays are maximum 2, like a dark gray for like really close to the screen objects, and then a medium gray, and that's it. And I kind of go out of the outlines. I don't care. So we start straight with an establishing shot of Ben and Ku on the beach. And we got closer. Ben is sketching on his notebook, and he shows it to Ku. He's happy. So Giant McClear and his dog, they're friends like us. And Ku leaves. Don't get in the water. It's dangerous. And then Saoirse appears behind him. And she's silent, but she breathes heavily and gets annoyed. Someone who can talk, you're really loud. And so she covers her nose, but breathes even more heavily. And so he gets mad, like, come on, Saoirse, why don't you go play with some rocks or something? And he kicks her down. She falls. She's hurt, of course. But Ku comes in and comforts her, and we got a nice little emotional beat between them. And Ben's looking, it's kind of not happy, so he wants to get Ku's attention again, and Saoirse is alone once again. And I want to quick talk about eyes, actually. Eyes can add a lot to a moment of stillness, of reflection. So Saoirse here, she can't speak, but we can tell how she's feeling. And then she sees something, and it's really interesting. Seal. And she's drawn to that, and she gets into the water. She's like hypnotized. Seals look at her, and the dog barks, and Ben realizes Saoirse is gone. It's like, Dad says I'm in charge, and there's no going in the water. She keeps going, and the dog keeps barking, and looks worried, but he hesitates. Like, we learn that Ben can't swim, so the dog runs straight out, but the leash is still attached to Ben. And so he gets pulled into the water too, and he's trying to resist, but he gets dragged away. And we added some comedy here with the big stone, the little crab, and then the bubbles. And here we got rid of the inflatable that I showed you in the thumbnails. Ben just comes out of the water panicking. And then we see Ben being quite miserable. He thinks he's drowning, but the water is actually pretty low. Not even looking at Saoirse, is just like humiliated and resentful. And Saoirse here is not smiling like in the thumbnails anymore. So there's more of a tense feeling in the air. And then he extracts his water toy out. You nearly got me killed. I'm not looking after you anymore. Come out with your hands up. To the lighthouse, kind of closing the scene. And when I'm all done, I pitch my cling pass to the whole team. And when the director gives their thumbs up, the sequence is finally delivered. And it goes to the editorial. And this is the final version of the movie.
Hey, Ku, look at this. Mum used to tell me this story. It's the giant McLear and his dogs. They're best friends, like us. Ku, don't go too close to the water. It's dangerous. For someone who hasn't learned how to talk, you are really loud. Oh, come on, Saoirse. Why don't you just go down there and play with some rocks or something? Hey, Ku, I'm drawing the great Shanachie. He has loads of hair, like you. Dad said I'm in charge, and I say there's no going in the water. It's dangerous. I can't. Cool, I can't. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Ah! Cool, no! Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa! No! That's it. I'm not looking after you anymore. You nearly got me killed. Come out with your hands up.
That's it.
Oh my gosh, that was so inspiring.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's so much that goes into your process. I really loved like the beginning when you were talking about what changes between like your process is ever changing. And I was really amazed by how you've pretty much traveled the world when you're doing this, and that's such an exciting like life, like being able to travel and then experiencing new places and working on such cool films and projects. And I was curious to know if the place that you are at also has a role in like how you'll start approaching your storyboards.
So I moved from Italy because I was craving connection and being surrounded by other artists, because I was working remotely after Ireland. After I came back from my 3 years in Ireland, I was in Italy and I freelanced for a while, and I was just like, I want more. And so I decided to move to London, because London, I knew it was close enough to home to be able to go back and forth. And I knew that London was really rich in terms of independent animation. There were a lot of studios, and I knew that it was mostly about freelancing. And so when I moved there, it was literally moving from one studio to another. And they had a really interesting way of working, because they will call you for the job, and the job could be one day, it could be 1 week, it could be 1 month, it could be 3 months, it could be anything. And sometimes I wouldn't even know what the project was until I said yes, which was so I went like, oh, this studio is cool, I will work with them for sure. And I feel like the whole NDA stuff was not as it is today. Back then, like 20 years ago, it wasn't like that. So yeah, you go to the studio, like, it's Monday, okay, what do I do? Is it storyboard? I don't even know. So yeah, it was fun. And I liked that kind of unpredictability, and I love the fact that because London was so lively and so diverse, every studio had their own style, and I got to meet a lot of different artists, and the community there was also very interesting. There were a lot of animation activities, like cafes once a month, and you get to chat with a lot of artists, and everyone is doing something completely different. And so for me, it was really cool. Sometimes I would work on a video game trailer. Sometimes I would work on the Disney opening titles. Then in London also I worked on the 2 features. So it was really different ways of living the work. Here in the US is different. It's kind of more corporate, of course. I feel like all my friends work in some big studio because it's all big studios here. So, and it's interesting because you have a different mentality as well. I feel like here is where I learned structure, where all the things that I knew kind of came into a more solid system, and that way I can also teach better, I think. I can communicate more clearly the things that I've learned, and I can pass them along to my students. I love that there's big stuff like Black Box in the US. Artists from all around the world, and yeah, it's really great. The scale is different. So you have something new in every place for sure.
Well, we're happy to have you around.
Yeah.
I guess on the topic of you being a teacher, since becoming not only a professional in your career, but also starting to like mentor and be a teacher to younger artists or other people who are trying to do what you're doing, have you learned anything new from this transition? Or I guess, like, has becoming a teacher changed how you approach things in your work?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I learned something new with every mentee that I take on. I feel like the things always intertwine because I'm like I mentor on my lunch breaks. So I kind of like move from one computer to another, and my brain is constantly working that way. So something that happened at work, I kind of bring it in my session. I'm like, so when this happens, blah, blah. And yeah, I like when there's that kind of feeding in each other. Something, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It sounds like no, it does. It sounds like you keep up the energy really well, and that like in I guess like your relationship between being a mentor and then switching back to work, and also like just seeing how your process works overall, is you keep up this like level of energy and excitement, which I think you can really see in the things that you do, and I think that's so inspiring. So thank you so much.
Also, throughout your mentorship or like teaching classes and helping students, do you feel like you see maybe an area where aspiring story artists, they just kind of struggle with more often than not? And then is there like one specific thing, or is it just like different for everyone? And how do people kind of like overcome that?
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's different for everyone. I feel there's two things. One thing is that that drive to try to show off as a student, and you're like, put the camera in this corner, and the shot is gonna be so beautiful, and adding gradients, adding effects, adding making these panels like amazing, and that's great. That's great that you can do that, but to me, storyboarding is about the idea, and so for me. A story that is effective with very little is the sweet spot. So like few lines, like if it's clear with few lines, with no tones, that is great. And intention also behind the way you place your camera, the way you use your storytelling. To me, it has to be driven by heart, by narrative, by is this functional? Is this serving the purpose? Great. Is this too much? Out. So this is kind of the way that I think, and I try to pass it on to my students as well, because the tendency to try to show off is always there, and when you kind of lose the connection with your audience, I think that's something to look for. The other thing, I think it's feedback. It's the value of feedback. It's both receiving and giving feedback. It's something that people don't teach. It's something that people don't talk about as much. And it's everything, especially in a story team, because when you give feedback to one of your peers, it never has to do with your personal taste. It always has to do with the bigger picture, and kind of like is this clear? I really love this because blah, blah, blah. I was a little confused by this moment, like that it didn't really, it wasn't clear for me because, and then what if is really important. And I always offer what if as a, genuine, generous tool. Never give feedback as in, oh, I really didn't like that, like it didn't click for me, that, because that is personal. That has nothing to do with clear and readable and kind of like coming across to your audience. So that is very, very important to me. And also receiving feedback is something that you have to kind of learn, because it doesn't have to do with you as a person. Like when you pitch your scene, yes, you're pitching a part of you, but it's not all of you. And when someone gives you that constructive criticism, is to help you grow as an artist. So it's a really fine line between giving it well and receiving it well. And I feel like it's stuff that people don't talk about as much, and it would make a massive difference in the success of a movie.
All of the advice that you've given is like super helpful. I feel like we're all, especially as like aspiring story artists, we really appreciate all of the the advice and lessons that you've talked about. Are there any sort of like specific or helpful or inspirational advices that have stuck with you from other people that you might have learned from, that you could share with us?
Yes. Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help when you're stuck. I feel like I was always, perfectionist. I am stubborn. I'm Italian. I want to solve it my way, and I want to, make it myself. But yeah, I had to learn to ask for help to my storyboard peers, to my director. Like, I don't know how to solve this thing. I don't have any funny jokes for this thing. And so your story team is there for that reason. That's why it's a story team. And there's no ownership of the single scene. You don't have to be attached to, this is my scene. Like I thought about it and I'm gonna finish it. No, it's okay. The scene is gonna fly around between story artists, and maybe you started and someone else adds to it. Maybe it comes back to you. This is how the movie really breathes. And yeah, if you are struggling with something and you need help, cat on the keyboard, it's okay to ask for more time. It's okay to go to your director and be like, hey, I don't connect with this. What are you thinking? What is your vision? So yeah, I had to learn that. When you learn it, it's much easier.
I was actually curious to know, because you're talking about perfectionism, which is something all artists and like we're students, we deal with it all the time, and it's like the plague of our existence. But like there have been times when I was approaching doing a storyboard, and am in the thumbnail stage, which you were saying is like one of the most important places where you can explore and experiment. Your thumbnails are beautiful, by the way. But I feel like there's always a point where I wonder if it's you're going too far, like doing it over and over and over again. Where's the point where you think that you're like, I think I should just like let this go? Or like when you keep asking for help, like where's the point when you're like, okay, it's good? Or do you ever get there, or do you always feel unsatisfied?
Of course. You guys are experiencing that a lot because you have your personal films there, and so you kind of want to really chase that perfection. So I totally get that. That it's good to have deadlines. That's what deadlines are for. And like if you manage to give yourself deadlines and be like, that's it, this is the day, what is there, just let it go. And the other way is to just ask your friends, show your work because you kind of get, tunnel vision, like you can't understand what's happening anymore. So take your sequence and show it to a family member or someone in your team, like pitch it to them and be like, is it clear? Or try to pitch it to me. Pitch to me what you understand from this, like reverse. And if the intention is clear and it came across that way, then I'm like, oh, okay, I can let go. So yeah, I think that's the way.
One more storyboard application question. And this is probably oddly specific, but you can like take it in any direction you want. We're aspiring story artists. If we can dedicate 1 extra hour every day to hone our like craft or skills in this area, what would you recommend us to do with that time?
I think it's movie study. It's movie study from film and sketching.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, of course, life drawing is super important. Life drawing is super important. Watching movies is super important, but watching movies while you're sketching is a different way to kind of absorb. And really, when you pause and then you sketch, you're like, they moved the camera. Why did they move it right now? Like, what is happening in my mind? Or like, how much space in the shot this is taking. I don't know. I just like to ask myself questions and try to be in the director's mind and understand why the camera plays that way, works that way. Again, like I feel like doing that with things that you love, especially, makes you understand better why you love them. And to me is much more efficient because I'm a visual person than like reading a book about, how to shoot this, how to shoot that.
Yeah, that is super helpful advice because it is true when we do film studies, it kind of like blows my mind because I love this thing, right? So I feel like I can like more easily understand that.
And bad movies as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And I love watching terrible movies, and I kind of understand why they're terrible. What makes them bad?
What's your favorite terrible movie?
Oh my God.
Do you have any recommendations?
It's like a hard question.
Oh no, this is
a good terrible movie to watch.
There's so many. There's The Green Slime. Have you watched it?
Which one?
The Green Slime.
The Green Slime? We gotta add that to our watch list. We gotta watch that together with our sketchbooks.
Oh my God. We're gonna end on one question. Oh, like an interesting thing that we usually at the end of the podcast, we kind of flip it and see if you have any questions you wanted to ask us since we're students. If there's anything you want to know.
I would like to know how you're feeling right now, because I think you said you have still 1 year ahead of you. Right? So you will have another movie, another film to make, and what excites you the most once you're out of school? How do you envision your life, and what is the first thing that you want to do?
I think it's kind of an anxious time, obviously, for a lot of reasons. Not even just in animation, outside of animation, but even in animation, it's like everyone's worrying about like getting internships, getting jobs. Like, is there even enough out there? Like, well, can I still do animation? All of those anxieties are definitely true, but it's also weird, I think, because it simultaneously at the same time, there's also like, you can make your own movies, you can post things on YouTube, like anything's possible as long as you put your mind to it. And so I feel like, at least for me, it feels like we're in a really like interesting but weird point where it's like the traditional ways of living a life within animation, like it seems to be kind of falling apart, but also there's this new thing that's like so enticing, but also we have no idea where it's going or whether it's even like a possible or viable or safe way to pursue animation. So I feel like there's a lot of exciting and a lot of scary things happening, and I kind of feel both at the same time. Like I'm scared and excited for everything that's to come. But yeah.
Very, very good answer. I think I'm like 90% fear and then 10% excitement. I'm hoping to like dial it into more balanced state. Yeah, I think after graduating, maybe it's just meeting new people or like finding out how things in real life work like outside of school, and through that probably it's going to be a really cool learning experience because it's going to be so different from what you learn in school. Yeah, and also as Matthew said, right now we can make anything, right? So
you can make a podcast.
We can make a podcast.
Make a podcast interviewing industry people.
Right, so yeah, hopefully there will be time to make things that we like. Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel pretty much the same way. Like teetering on the edge of uncertainty, but also so much excitement for what is to come. I have a lot of reassurance talking to people like you or people who have, you know, like made it or like you're in it really, and it makes it's nice to kind of see like what is possible and to hear from people who also went through a period of time where you were probably like, what am I doing? I don't know where this is going. And that's why I also am always asking, like, how do you keep going? Like, how do you, as somebody who's working in the animation industry now, how do you keep being excited and motivated? But you know, for me, it's things like this, and it's being surrounded by my classmates who are so inspiring to me. I personally love like making short films, and I love being excited about making things in general. So I guess after graduation, I'm excited to be excited, and I'm really looking forward to looking forward to having the resources to keep making things that I love to do. And I know that that's something that can never be taken away. No matter what, we can always be making things because we love to do it. So yeah, that's how I feel. I am, of course, anxious, but I like to stay positive too. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this with me. I envy you guys, and I don't, because you guys are living in very, very overwhelming times. Like, aside from what's happening in the world, aside from the whole AI thing, whatever, but I'm thinking what I had access to when I started, very little, because you know, I'm old enough for not having access to like online workshops and mentorships and that kind of stuff. And you know, when I started, there was no Instagram, there was none of that. And so there were very few books. There were very, when you would meet a professional coming to your school, it was like, oh my God, like, it will never happen again, you know. So you really savor all of those moments. And so my journey was, I think, was like slower and savoring it more. Like every moment was really precious, while you guys have access to everything. Like even the things that we are doing today, it was not available to me at the time. So just being able to write to one of your heroes, and they might just reply with a message on Instagram or whatever. So I think it's hard when you have so much. It's hard to pick the things that you really want to focus on and like give it enough time. I think it's difficult when you have so much, but also I don't know. I feel like the journey is such an important thing that you have to be a little bit crazy and just. I don't know, if I think of my own journey, like I didn't really think too much. What happens if Ireland doesn't go well? Or when I moved to London, I didn't really have much lined up. I had a job that was supposed to last 2 months. Wow. And then it was like, okay, what happens after? Like, do I go back? No, I started a lease, and I'm like, I'll do it, whatever. It's good, because when you put yourself in a risky position, your mind, your body, your energy kind of the resources for you. Because if you're in a cozy situation, you're not gonna risk too much. So I think be a little crazy is a good thing.
Yeah.
Just give yourself opportunities for things to happen, and just really savor the journey, because many times the journey is way more important than the final result. When you're working on something, is all about the people you meet, the experiences you get, and and then you get the results, and you might like the result or not, but then there's the whole journey that it's made of experiences, and that's what's important. So AI or not, whatever, you just do it for the love that you have for it.
I'm gonna pin this advice on my wall.
You
You have to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
Be a little crazy. We're gonna
A little crazy.
The message of this podcast has come to us. Thank you so much, Alessandra.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're truly one of my favorite storyboard artists, so this was a huge honor. And it's really inspiring to be able to speak directly to you. So thank you so much. I said it a million times, and I'll say it again.